proceed without a credible plan for ensuring the safety and support of more than 1 million people sheltering there. Many people there have been displaced multiple times, fleeing the violence to the north, and now they're packed into Rafah, exposed and vulnerable. They need to be protected.
The president's calls come after Israeli troops extracted 2 hostages from Rafah in an operation that killed dozens of Palestinians. That itself followed a conversation where Biden addressed Israel's prime minister on Rafah. Newsnet international correspondent Ryan Thompson reports.
128 days after being captured by Hamas, Israel is celebrating the safe return of 2 more hostages. This is the moment family members were reunited early Monday in a hospital outside Tel Aviv.
They were safe tonight, but I must say that the job is not done. We are happy today, but it's not we didn't win.
This was Israel's first successful hostage rescue since troops moved into Gaza last November. Previous attempts have been deadly. In December, IDF troops accidentally killed 3 hostages despite them yelling in Hebrew. Overnight, Israeli bombs dropping on Rafah, Gaza's supposed last remaining non-military zone in the south. Hundreds of injured were rushed to Gaza's last few hospitals, with 67 Palestinians reportedly killed. Israeli troops are now preparing to launch a ground offensive in the area, but there are fears that even more innocent lives could be lost, as some 1.4 million displaced people are now living on Rafah streets. In tears, this woman pleading to our partner's cameras, where should I take my 2-month-old son? That same question posed to Israel's prime minister this Sunday.
They can't just disappear. Where are they supposed to go?
No, well, the areas that we've cleared north of Rafah are plenty of areas there, but we're working out a detailed plan to do so.
Despite pushback on the government's plans, Israel's prime minister insisting that troops won't be stopped.
Reporting for Newsnet, I'm Ryan Thompson.
Let's turn back to Washington now. Defense Secretary
on U.S. General Anthony McAuliffe to surrender. McAuliffe simply replied, "Nuts," a single word that would enter U.S. military folklore. Now a museum in southern Belgium has restored the headquarters formerly home to the 101st Airborne Division.
And now those cellars are accessible again to the audience, to the public. So it's very important. We really wanted to keep the place as it was, like in 1944.
The renovation is part of an exhibition celebrating the 80th anniversary of the battle. Andrew Burnell lived in Bastogne during the battle.
I was 13, and when you're 13, what do? You're bored during the holidays, and you dig around and wander everywhere looking for souvenirs of the battle, which had just finished. That's how by chance my brother and I found the cabin of a plane in Chenonneau Woods.
German forces initially took the Allies by surprise in the attack, their last major offensive of the war. U.S. forces lost roughly 19,000 troops.
We found a big packet of papers, 25 by 25 centimeters, and they were photos. There were about 180. And so we were able to find out that those photos were the whole battlefield of Bastogne, which was photographed by this plane at midday on December 25th.
For Belgians, the Bulge is a testament to the sacrifice made by U.S. soldiers to liberate Western Europe.
Another video released by Hamas terrorists. But this video ends abruptly, and it was actually released by Israel Defense Forces. They say this is footage from a body camera that a terrorist was wearing just minutes before the IDF killed him. On Friday, the Israeli Commando Brigade, which released this video, reported killing several armed terrorists as they strengthened operational control in western Khan Yunis. Since the war began in the Gaza Strip, about 20,000 terrorists have been killed or injured, according to Israel's defense minister, and about 20,000 terrorists are still active in the Gaza Strip. This commanding officer operating in central Gaza reported on a recent discovery.
We are here in the heart of a residential area. Hamas established a facility and a lathe for the production of rockets. We will search and destroy all of Hamas's weapons.
He explained that the machines and materials were intended for civilian use, but Hamas used them to make weapons. Also on Friday, Israeli residents attempted to block humanitarian aid from getting into the Gaza Strip.
We can't just carry on feeding the Hamas and getting nothing. So getting hostages, I just want to underline this 100%.
And in the Gaza Strip, this man fetches water for his family and relatives every day. His dad explained the situation.
They only pump it for an hour, and everyone goes and stands in line and waits 1-2 hours to be able to get a gallon of water. It's salt water, so of course not good for cooking or anything, but we have no choice. That is what's available.
An Israeli government spokesperson on Friday said Israel wants to see humanitarian aid reach the civilians in Gaza who need it, while making sure that Hamas cannot steal it. Jason Perry, NTD News.
A quick vote is coming on a bill to grant billions of funding to the agency. It's an internal investigation into Israel. The tunnels under the headquarters of the rooms and also safes that had been opened and emptied. A large chamber was packed with computers within battery stacks. The tour was an Israeli lieutenant colonel who gave only his first name, Ido.
This is one of the central commands of the intelligence. This place is one of the Hamas's intelligence units, where they command most of the combat from here, not from the underground.
Ido said Hamas and the Israelis actively communications that above-ground part of the tour running through the floor of the UNRWA basement. In a statement, UNRWA said it had vacated the headquarters on October 12th, 5 days after the war began, and was therefore, quote, unable to confirm or otherwise comment on the Israeli finding.
Excellent.
Back in the U.S., the Democrat-led Senate moved
breached with an explosive charge during the raid, under heavy exchanges of gunfire with surrounding buildings. An IDF spokesman says the operation was planned for some time, and that conditions needed to be right. He says an airstrike was carried out to allow special forces to be extracted. President Biden told Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu Sunday Israel should not launch a military operation in Rafah without a plan to ensure safety for the roughly 1 million people sheltering there. Netanyahu's office says it ordered the military to develop an evacuation plan for Rafah and to destroy 4 Hamas battalions deployed there. The White House says ongoing hostage release efforts were discussed, with an emphasis on the need to capitalize on progress in negotiations, along with humanitarian aid. Egypt warned of dire consequences Sunday should Israel launch a military assault on Rafah along its border. Israel says its forces found a Hamas data center 60 feet under the UN Relief Agency headquarters in Gaza. The IDF says intelligence from interrogations, computers, and maps led to a tunnel shaft near an UNRWA school over 700 yards long. Combat engineers dug down 26 feet to get access since it had been blocked. The military says it found servers, electrical infrastructure, multiple blast doors, offices, and living quarters inside, as well as large quantities of weapons and explosives hidden in the UN agency's offices. In Israel, police sealed off Jerusalem's Old City Sunday after reports of an attempted stabbing. Police say they neutralized the suspect who tried to stab an officer. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
The Democrat-led Senate moves closer to passing a bill to provide aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. It cleared a key procedural hurdle yesterday, one of the last before a final vote.
The $95 billion bill is facing opposition from some Republicans.
The Senate voted 67 to 27 to move the legislation forward. 18 Republicans joined Democrats to advance the bill. Proponents of the bill hope it will be approved by Tuesday. The bill includes $61 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, and nearly $5 billion for U.S. allies in the Indo-Pacific, including Taiwan. It would also provide over $9 billion in humanitarian aid to civilians in Gaza and the West Bank, Ukraine, and other conflict zones around the globe.
If America doesn't assist Ukraine, Putin is all too likely to succeed, as President Zelensky repeatedly has reminded us.
Our allies and partners are hoping that the indispensable nation, the leader of the free world, has the resolve to continue.
But there are still hurdles to be overcome. The bill faces staunch opposition from former President Trump and other Republicans. Senator Mike Lee spoke for nearly 4 hours on Saturday. He argued the bill ought to be subject to an amendment process.